Hello, and welcome to the weekly Martech Brain Tap, weekly insights from Martech consultants in New York. I'm Inga Romanov.
And I'm Robert Vaughn.
Today's guest is Adam Hutchinson, who is the head of marketing at Socedo, a software solution that helps marketers discover, engage, and qualify leads at scale using social media signals. Adam, welcome. Do you want to make a quick introduction first?
Yeah, thanks, Inga. So, as Inga mentioned, I run the marketing team here at Socedo, and we're really focused on bridging the gap between what's happening out there on social channels, all the rich conversations and the data we can find out there on the web, and bringing that into the rest of the marketing organization in order to fuel more leads, higher conversions, and more revenue for businesses. And really, I like to approach it from both a B2B and a B2C standpoint, because I think different industries are approaching this in different ways today, but it really is a common issue. And even prior to Socedo, I was running some promotional programs at Amazon where we were bridging social media campaigns with email campaigns and ad campaigns. And, it's crazy when you look at even a big brand like Amazon, it's still kind of in the beginning days of using social throughout its marketing ecosystem. So I find this, a common problem between very small companies and very large companies. So that's kind of what I'm passionate about, and really bridging that gap into the marketing operations world specifically, where all the rest of the data lives.
How fascinating. I completely agree with you in terms of social media and where it stands. Perhaps only in the last year and a half, companies took social media seriously and actually turned it into more of an omnichannel conversation rather than before it was just one person doing social media and I just had to do it because everybody else did. I feel like your role or what you do is still really rare because it's only now being seen as part of the overall marketing message.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. If you look at 2015, it was actually the first year that the majority of marketers were doing social media marketing. Prior to that, it was around 40 to 45% of marketers said they were doing some social. 2015, we kind of hit that breaking point. And then in the last couple of years, it's really exploded. And now about 80% of marketers actually are doing something on social. So it's really growing quickly. But I mean, if you just look at it, most people still aren't even tracking the ROI of social. They have no idea how to track the investments from it. Right. Certainly not plugged in. It's still very much viewed as a broadcast channel or, maybe a customer service channel at this point.
What are your thoughts on why 2015? What was the turning point there? What was the thing that really kind of made people go from social, we're kind of scared of it, to hey, let's really incorporate social into our whole marketing effort?
Yeah, I think a couple of things have been happening in the marketing industry, kind of a perfect storm that's converged here. Mm-hmm. On one hand, it's just you look at the other channels that were really traditional to marketing, they've declined over time. Email click-through rates are about a fourth of what they were 10 years ago. Even ad click-through rates continue to decline as well. People are more and more bombarded with messages. At the same time, social media platforms and their usage has just expanded greatly. Mm-hmm. We hear some of these negative news stories about, what's going to happen to Twitter, what's happening to Snapchat. Right. But honestly, Twitter's revenue has grown 8% just in the past year alone. These platforms are really thriving right now. This is where people want to be, and we've really reached that breaking point where the majority of Americans and people across the world now are actually on some sort of social media platform, logging in daily, and actually want and expect their brands to interact with them. And so I think marketers have had to take a pretty hard look at this the past couple of years and say, look, the old way of doing marketing just isn't working. We're kind of flushing money down the drain at this point, versus our customers are actually craving to interact with us on these other channels. And so we've seen this shift happen pretty quickly as marketers, out of necessity, need to make the transition, but also have reaped kind of the benefits of better customer experience as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. What are some of the key use cases or kind of interesting use cases that you've seen, and how marketers are actually using social to really engage and their audience?
Yeah, well, I'll tell a quick story of a friend of mine actually. So Tara Reid is the CEO of two different startups. She started Collecto, which is an art collecting, curating startup to help art lovers find very B2C focused, very consumer and focused, and mostly like a publication. She also founded Apps Without Code, which was actually geared towards marketers and salespeople who could write their own little apps and utilities to improve their own processes without having to go to their engineering team. And both of these, she started these on her own. She wanted to connect with her audience because that was the only way she was going to grow her business, was to find them and gain some trust with the people out there in the industry.
Right.
So she turned to social. She didn't even spend any money on ads. She did a little bit of content marketing to start out with. And then she turned to social and she said, where are these people? For Apps Without Code, she went straight to Twitter because she knew she could find marketing and salespeople. And literally all she did was she started just following a bunch of people, interacting with them, joining in on conversations. And whenever someone in marketing or sales had a pain point or is talking about something that, oh man, I wish I had the more dev resources for this, or I wish I knew how to code. She would join in that conversation to actually drive them to her landing page, share a piece of content with them. And that's how she grew her business. And she actually increased her traffic by about 10x in months just by doing this. She was starting from little, so it was easy to grow. But still, if you think about that, someone brand new at that company driving 10x in 3 months, that's really how she grew her business to start out with. And then she was able to automate on top of that and kind of do some of the more traditional lead nurturing, lead generation stuff.
That is interesting.
Yeah, and in her art startup, she took the same approach, but she said, where is my audience? Artists, it's Pinterest and it's Instagram. And so she did the same sort of thing, just on a different channel, and really connected with people where they were. She shared some of her favorite art. She really gained this brand voice on social, allowed people to trust her, come to her. And so when someone was talking about purchasing art, or they were really excited about a new piece that they had just bought at an art show, they put it on Instagram, she would follow up with them and say, hey, do you want to find more pieces like this? Sign up for my newsletter. Again, she found about 3x growth in the first month just doing that on Pinterest and Instagram.
Wow. Yeah, especially with art, right? Because it has to be very visual. Where Twitter, for example, is more, I don't want to say more words, because it's really only 140 characters, right? But Pinterest was very specific, and Instagram as well is very specifically designed for images and photos and that type of thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of where it all comes back to as well is, I hear the mistake that a lot of marketers make is, well, which social channel do we start with?
Right.
Where do we go first? And it's like, you know what, first of all, you kind of need a full web presence, but where's your audience and where are they talking about something relevant? Because that's going to be the biggest bang for your buck. Don't worry about, how many people are actually on that channel, how active are they, what's my ROI? Worry about where are your people actually talking about things that you can join in the conversation with.
So here's a question for you. From when you were at Amazon, what channel did Amazon leverage, or you, I guess, leveraged when you were at Amazon the most and finding the most engagement?
That's a great question. So Amazon has always really put a lot of its resources into Facebook.
Okay, makes sense.
So part of this reason, and for better or for worse, part of this reason is they were able to grow a very loyal audience on Facebook and people liking their page because they liked the brand Amazon.
Right.
Or they would share these product pages, these little promo offers because they cared about it. Facebook's great about that. Facebook's a very kind of tight-knit network because you can only see things of, posts of people in your network, or you can only join pages on, things that you like versus just seeing the wide everything on Twitter, right?
Right.
So Amazon really invested heavily on Facebook, and it's, their audience there is about 10 times larger than it is on any other channel. So they see a lot of returns on their products to their loyal customer base. They're promoting those on Facebook. They can run really great sweepstakes campaigns on Facebook, promotional campaigns, or even just launching new products. But what I found really interesting while I was working there is that when we had certain initiatives, we were trying to tap into a new market, or we were bringing on a new vendor who wanted to launch a specific product line, it usually wasn't Facebook that got the highest returns for us. Actually, where that audience was already active around a certain brand or a topic or a product line. So, for example, I was working with a large phone accessories company as a vendor with Amazon, and they wanted to launch some of their new phone cases. And this was a company that was well known for quality, a little bit high end in the market, but they weren't designer brands, so they didn't have this really loyal following. And they certainly weren't the cheapest on the market either. But they had these really great products that they wanted to get people excited about. And so, Facebook, well, we had this great audience, but the people that were on there already cared about the phone cases that they had, or
Right.
they weren't coming there because they wanted to talk about phone cases. They wanted to talk about Amazon and its products. But what we did is we turned actually to Instagram in that case. And we said people are really passionate about their phones.
Mhm.
Not only do they like taking pictures with their phones, but they actually like taking pictures of their phones in fun places when they really care about it. And so we launched this campaign where we said it was user-generated content, and it was a sweepstakes, and we said, submit your picture of a day in the life with your phone. What does that mean to you? And we built this whole campaign around, and people would, take their pictures of their phones at breakfast, or they take pictures of their phones in mirrors where they were.
I was going to say, how does that work, especially at breakfast? I mean, I definitely get it, like from the mirror perspective, right? You're standing in front of it. But anyways, that sounds very interesting.
Some people got pretty creative. They do it with their friends, even. They take pictures of each other with their phones.
Okay.
So it was just really fun, and people really got into it.
Right.
And because it was a platform specific for taking photos, sharing it with the world, wanting to be excited about the things you care about, we had a huge success by doing that on Instagram versus trying to put out some promotional ads on Facebook. Just didn't work quite as well because the audience wasn't there yet.
Got it. So let's see, for marketers who are kind of thinking about getting into social, what are how do they find, or what are the methods? What do they have to think about to actually find the right platform to actually promote their or engage with their audience or build their following? What are some guidance you could give them on that?
Yeah, there's a few steps. The first one, don't overthink it. Where are your competitors already? Where are your partners? Where are those conversations already happening? If you're in a brand new industry, obviously that's a little bit tougher. But for most of us, we have other brands, the industry ecosystem is already kind of out there and built for us. Where are they seeing the most success? In the B2B space, a lot of times it's actually on Twitter because it's so easy to connect with people.
Right.
And it's kind of all public, right? So you can just join into conversations. For consumer brands, sometimes it's Facebook, sometimes it's Pinterest, etc. So figure out where those brands already are on social and join in on those conversations. You don't have to start it from scratch. You really want to kind of join something that's already happening because that's where you're going to get the biggest lift.
Interesting. Yeah, because you'll get exposure as you are part of those conversations in those streams.
Exactly. But,
Got it.
It was really interesting. We were, we do Twitter chats and stuff like that once in a while here at Sociedo, and we did a little experiment about a year ago where we did some Twitter chats that we hosted kind of on our own. It was our own handle and our own hashtags. And then we did a few where we just joined in and participated on them. And we drove more traffic by joining in other people's Twitter chats, other people's conversations, rather than hosting our own. Because one, we were able to leverage someone else's network that was net new versus our own.
Right.
And, it was a much broader, much more rich conversation for the people involved. So they wanted to learn more. They wanted to figure out our perspective within this broader topic versus us just kind of pushing out there our messaging.
Right. Wait, how did that work? Is it you coordinated with them, or you just saw the conversation going on and you just kind of jumped in, or what was the sort of behind the scenes, if you will, around that?
Yeah. I mean, both. My favorite thing to do is, pick some partner in your network, even if they're just loosely related to you. And have them host a Twitter chat, make them the experts. And then what we did is, we agree on some questions ahead of time, agree on some topics, and had a common hashtag. They would just start posting those questions out there, and then we would just kind of come in and answer questions once in a while that we had good answers to. We'd comment on other people who were answering those questions, and we'd add our own perspective or add a link to kind of back them up. So, great point. Here's how we think about it.
That's interesting. So it's like just so I could kind of equate it to something that a lot of marketers are more familiar with. Like if you host a webinar, right, and you have a guest speaker. So in your case, you're saying, work with someone who will host that webinar. They would run it, but then you are almost like the guest speaker on it. But this happens to be sort of within the Twitter sphere, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Same exact principle.
Right.
Make yourself the expert, make yourself the interesting story, and people will want to keep talking with you.
And is that like a scheduled conversation, or is that just more like, hey, let's just get on and have this conversation? What, like, from a coordination perspective?
The most successful ones have been just kind of ad hoc, come as they go type ones. They might even stretch over a few days and just posting, answering. Scheduled ones work great too if you have a large audience. You can really people.
That's very interesting. So now, so you mentioned, you got more, better results from it. How are you looking at, and what are you looking at from a results perspective, and how does it actually work?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. There's kind of 3 stages when we think about success or attribution from social media, and it's all beyond reach. Reach is great, but we got to go beyond there. We got to really talk about the rest of the business, the rest of the market funnel. So the first place is really just which leads am I driving from social media? From traffic, net new form fills. Who am I getting into my system? The top of the funnel. So that starts with kind of first touch attribution. And the nice thing is most social media management platforms today have some sort of first touch attribution, lead generation number built into them. That analytics is already there. Whether you're using Hootsuite, Buffer, Sprout Social, Octopost, it's all kind of ad hoc right out of the box. Just kind of turn it on. And you can see what traffic am I driving from certain posts or certain interactions. What form fills did I drive from this campaign that I ran. Really easy to see once you turn that on. Kind of the next step there is just hook that up with Google Analytics. And again, this doesn't have to be super technical or very hard. Literally all it takes is, set up your conversion tracking in Google Analytics. Make sure you know what kind of a successful form fill looks like, what page to find that in Google Analytics. And then from there, they're going to break down exactly which social channels your traffic's coming from anyways. Then you take those raw numbers, you say, look, I drove 50 form fills from Facebook over a 6-week period. And I know out of my social media management platform, maybe Hootsuite, that I got 60 clicks from this one campaign in that 6-week period. And then all of a sudden you can start to do the math together and infer a little bit like, hey, this campaign drove X number of form fills for me at this conversion rate. Seems to be really successful. Let's try some more of those types of things. Right.
Have you ever seen it go through sort of the further end of the funnel, meaning like pipeline and revenue, the association of like, hey, here's all the, initiatives or conversations that we had on Twitter, for example, and it drove X number of dollars when it comes to pipelines or pipeline or revenue?
Absolutely. I'd say about a little less than 10% of marketers are probably there today. But it's definitely somewhere where we need to head as an industry. And the nice thing is, it's not super complicated. If you're using a marketing automation system, everything from Marketo to HubSpot, to even CRMs like Infusionsoft, it's pretty easy to integrate these things together. Hootsuite, Sprout Social, Octopost, Sprinkler on the higher end of the system, all of these systems integrate pretty well across marketing platforms.
Nice.
And it comes down to, we use Octopost here internally. And so anyone who clicks on one of our links, no matter where they are in the funnel, we add that click data directly into our marketing system. And so if it was a net new lead, great, we can attribute that lead to social. But even if they're a deal that's currently being worked by sales and they happen to click a link to our blog post that we just published, well, great, now I know that blog post actually influenced that deal once it closes. And so I can attribute revenue back to social from there as well. There's kind of a lot of ways to do it, but that's even only just one step, because then you think about, you go further, all the things people are talking about on social media aren't necessarily your tweets, but maybe they're interacting with your brand in a different way. Maybe they're replying to you. Maybe they're retweeting you. Maybe they're actually talking to one of your competitors or talking about an event coming up in your space. All of those are really relevant actions for you as well. Just the same way that someone Googling something in your industry might be relevant, or visiting a review site and looking at some of your competitors. All of that is really rich data that you want in your system the nice thing about social is it's all public. You can actually start to scrape some of that information, put it with known leads in your database, and then really get an understanding of what is this buying cycle? What are people talking about online that's driving deals? And so solutions, again, like Octopus, Socito, Sprinkler, they all have some element of social listening beyond just your own content online. So once you can hook that up, that's when you really start to get rich data that can impact your entire marketing system.
Wait a minute. So you're able to, with it, well, I'm not as familiar with all those technologies, but you're able to use some of those technologies to get a sense of like, hey, they were looking at our competitor and look, they actually came in and purchased from us. You can kind of get that level of data. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a ton of social listening tools out there at a very high level. Track which types of leads, what's the breakdown of who's following your competitors or talking to one of your competitors online. Use those keywords, competitors, events, partners, influencers in your space to understand where the conversation is headed. And then you use a tool, again, like Socito. We do this a little bit. Octopus can do some, where you expand that to specific leads. Once you have that Twitter handle in your marketing system, then you can start to track everything that person's doing online that's actually relevant to you.
Wow.
Break down those keywords just the same way that you're breaking down your SEO keywords. Have a list of social media keywords that you should be tracking.
Very interesting. What B2B company have you seen that has used social and measured it, and actually got results from it, doing it really, really like stellarly?
Yeah, my favorite example is a company called Go Animate. They do these little animated videos on demand, kind of drag and drop features, very easy for marketers or product people to be able to create their own animated videos and just launch them, pretty quickly and scalably. So, they were already doing they were pretty social, obviously doing a ton of video content because they were a video platform. But they were all across Twitter and Facebook and even Instagram and Snapchat. They had a pretty wide social presence there. But they weren't really tying it into their marketing systems yet. They were a new company.
Right.
So they had recently purchased Marketo. And so what they did was they said, all right, it's time for us to kind of hook up end-to-end our marketing system and figure out what's happening on social. And so first of all, they started targeting people who were specifically talking about video marketing, but maybe weren't interacting with them yet. So what was that net new audience out there that they could find? So they did this by, one, just people tweeting about video marketing, specifically people who had video marketing in their Twitter profile as their bio, or even people following other video marketing platforms or publications around that, right? So people who were following Vimeo, obviously, but also had marketing in their job titles, or people who are following like Vidyard or Wistia or other video. Targeting all of these people and literally just sending them messages to try their demo. So they would connect with them, they'd follow them on Twitter. When they followed back, they'd send them a direct message saying, hey, it looks like you're interested in video marketing. Would you like to try a demo of our new platform that can spin up an animated video in 5 minutes? Well, that was super compelling. So a lot of people came to their website, filled out their form, and started a free trial. But they didn't stop there. And this is what I think is really cool. Because even the people who just interacted with them online, but didn't sign up for that demo yet, they took their contact information, the ones that they knew who they were, they had their email address, and then they sent them very specific emails around great to connect with you on social media. Saw you were tweeting about this. I'd love to connect with you. We'd love to show you a demo of our product. And what ended up happening was those emails that they were sending out had 500% higher click-through rates than their general nurture emails.
500%? Wow.
500%. And so we talk about email being kind of this dying industry. Well, it's not true. It's just once we get better data and we have better targeting, it starts to work. And so they saw these huge returns on their emails. And then they actually had an 81% lift in MQLs once they started doing this strategy. So huge for the business. And all it took was just some more specific targeting on social media.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That's pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah, I love that story.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good story, because I think I think we talked about this when we had sort of our chat the other few weeks ago or whatever it was. But kind of being out there in the marketing sphere, I've only seen a very small percentage of marketers who were actually like totally open to jumping into social. Again, this we're talking about the last 5 years, and a lot of it in like technology companies, right? Which is kind of interesting. But happy to hear that, glad to hear that it's kind of like changing, right? People are, first of all, being smarter about that, but getting some results as well, right? So here's a kind of hopefully interesting question, right? What is the social DNA on the marketing team that is needed, and like what number of people do we really need to, or the team needs, the company needs to really thoughtfully do social, and not just one person who maybe graduated from college and here's Twitter, so just go for it, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, I'll answer that in a few different ways.
Mhm.
And first of all, social should be a company initiative.
Right.
Really, when we think about this, this is the public face of our company, just the same way that your website is the public face of your company.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I've never worked at a company where an executive didn't need to sign off on the final design for the homepage of the website.
Right.
Same thing with social media. Get your execs involved with the decision making, with what you're putting out there, with the kind of brand voice that you have. Make sure they're active on it too. Some of the most success we've had is we have internalized it from marketing, that kept people involved. So what we do is we hook up everyone who wants to participate. We hook up their social media profiles into our marketing social media management system. Everyone from our CEO down to one of our engineers is actually managed through marketing. So what we do is we push out similar content across all of these social profiles from our employees, but even our company handles. And then, of course, we give people additional content or kind of nudges to be social themselves. So we give, hey, we published this thing. We're not promoting it yet, but what do you think about it? What did you find interesting? Why don't you post a quote from it online? Right. We send out these reminders. And for the sales team, what's really great is, we actually give them insights on which leads were coming from social. That gives them the incentive to go back and say, wait, if this relevant conversation brought this lead in the first place, I should probably go connect with them on social media too, and make sure I have that presence as well, because now I want to be the one who's connecting with my leads.
Interesting. So it sounds like not different from a lot of marketing. First of all, you have to have a strategy, and like a whole communication strategy. Social just happens to be another channel, right? Meaning, in your examples, your stories, it cuts across social back into the system or sort of your marketing automation, and then you continue that conversation via email or what have you, right? So very interesting.
Yeah, and when we talk about kind of social fitting into a marketing team, I'm a huge proponent of having it live under content marketing. Again, it's a channel, it's your voice, it's what you're talking about online. It actually, tweets aren't just a broadcast channel; it's actually a piece of content itself. That tweet, that 140. So it should live within those brand guidelines and those voices. But really, it's also for everyone, right? So we don't just have one person writing a blog post. We might have a few different people, the marketing ops person, the demand gen person, also writing blog posts for a business. Same thing with social, right? We should maybe, I've always had it where one person is the focal point of social and managing those channels, but everyone is required, but also encouraged to participate and share in on that, post things, etc.
Nice.
I know we're running out of the time so quickly, but I have one last question. I think as voice of the customer became CX, customer experience, and it really becomes more of a conversation, and it's a two-way conversation. What do you think social media, how will that play the role in CX? And do you think companies will start listening more through social media channels to sort of take it back in and adjust the brand messaging or what their product messaging looks like?
Oh,
I know that was not a quick question. Robert's giving me an
Yeah, but I think it's an important question because absolutely brands need to be heading in that direction and viewing social media as a way to connect with their customers. It's about 2/3 of all internet users in America want and expect a brand to respond to them on social media, both when they have a positive experience, but also when they have a negative experience. So just right there, we think about, all right, if most people would rather actually interact with us on social versus a phone call. So all of a sudden, we need to reframe the way we think about customer service, customer discovery, even customer success, and giving people the voice of the customer. And then even from there, 81% of Americans aged 35 and under log into Twitter at least once per day. That's huge. I just found that stat yesterday, but that kind of surprised me. 81%. So this is where our customers are. This is where they're living their lives. This is where they're posting their food, but it's also where they're posting their job complaints and what they're struggling with today, and why they have such a hard time working with the sales team today. And those are all really rich insights that we need to tap into and join those conversations. And so absolutely, as brands start to build their presence, it should be a customer service, customer success initiative as well. And really, we should be identifying our customers proactively before they even come to us on social media. So that way we can build that trust and be a part of that conversation.
Very interesting, and I cannot wait to see where it goes.
Very interesting.
This industry is moving also so fast. I can see it completely rolling into that part of the company that is trying to listen to their customer and prospect.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right. And to our audience, if you have any questions to Adam, please feel free to text your email at 646-863-5601, or just join us for another conversation. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.
These streets will make you